not completely collapse when you give up a 3-goal lead. That's also important. I don't think this team is mentally fragile by any stretch of the imagination, but recent things tend to stick in your mind more than things from even last year or 2 years ago when they last won the Cup. So they're all human beings. They need that positive reinforcement, maybe not constant positive reinforcement, but a little bit here and there certainly helps. So to persevere and to win that game was big. But this team has not shown an ability to string results together yet this season outside of that Western Canada trip. So that'll be the big onus here, and the players know that. I'm still not terribly concerned about this team. They're a positive team in terms of shot differential, in terms of scoring chance differential. I still see goaltending as the biggest issue, and I'm still not sold on Casey DeSmith as an NHL number one goalie or even a 1A. I would like to see more of Tristan Jarry, but I don't know if the Penguins are in a position to give him a string of starts if, say, Murray is healthy, because more than likely it's going to have to be on Matt Murray. But overall, it's a flawed team for sure, but I don't know if they're that far behind any of the teams in the East right now.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, I just remember at the beginning of the season, it seemed like they had an embarrassment of riches and talent, and too many players to even know where to put them all. And now, we're wondering, are they going to be good enough? Are they too old and slow and all that other stuff? So, yeah, we'll see. One thing they did do is trade Daniel Sprong to Anaheim for Marcus Pettersson, a defenseman. Where did you stand on Daniel Sprong? Do you think he will actually? Did you think he just didn't get a good enough chance with the Penguins and he'll thrive somewhere else, or do you think he just isn't NHL ready right now?
I'm not sure he's as good as perhaps a good portion of the Penguins fan base believes he is, and for good reason. Jim Rutherford himself hyped up Daniel Sprong to the moon and back. So in some ways, maybe that's just protecting your draft pick and feeling like he's your special project. If you're JR, maybe it's keeping his trade value up so you can make a deal like this and maybe get an interesting piece in a Pettersson. Pretty decent opening game, I thought, for him, paired with Jack Johnson a lot of the time. So, we'll see how that works out. But in terms of Sprong's ability, yeah, he can shoot the puck, but can he think the game at a level that he needs to? I'm not sure if he was ever going to fit in Pittsburgh with the current coaching staff. He and Sullivan didn't seem to be simpatico, so he moves on. Different situation. The Ducks play a little bit more of a deliberate game. Not saying that Sprong is slow either, but perhaps it'll be a better fit for him. Sometimes it's hard to tell. It'll be a nice mental refresh for him. And I keep thinking with Sprong, he might be the type of player who needs to play like 40 games for a team that doesn't necessarily have to win right now. So the Penguins weren't going to be that team that could just give him 40 games to figure things out. It's just not going to happen with where they are in their competitive arc. This Penguins team this year and next year, probably the end of the competitive window, or the Cup window, I should say, with this current core, assuming there's no big shakeup. So it was a combination of the player not performing and also, I think, circumstances that ultimately sent Daniel Sprong elsewhere. And the trade, if you just look at it from a depth perspective, Joe, it makes a lot of sense because the Penguins have like nobody on the farm on the blue line that they can turn to right now if they needed to make a couple of call-ups. There are a few forwards. There are guys like DePauli and Bluger and Adam Johnson, just to name a few, that wouldn't fall on their face at the NHL level. I'm pretty confident. But as far as D are concerned, there's not a lot. So from just that side of it, from this year, from that perspective, the 1 year plan, if you will, to win another Stanley Cup, it does make sense from that angle too.
Yeah, it just hurt his development. I think his first year, he played a few games with the Penguins, and he used up a year of eligibility, and it basically got wasted, and then they sent him back to junior. And that, I think that extra year of development really could have helped him right now. And now he has to do basically on-the-job training and try to figure it out. So it's it didn't look like he was going to get a chance with the Penguins with their win now mode. So yeah, we'll see.
Right, 15-16 is the year you're referring to. I think he played 10 games or somewhere in that range, or it had to have been 9. It has to be fewer than 10. And he played more than 10 because then they had to burn that year. That's
right.
And then he was a healthy scratch until about the midway point of the season, and they sent him back. So that didn't help either, and maybe that's on Sprong as much as it is the management, because he showed him something and then couldn't deliver in game situations to their satisfaction. Even this training camp, you heard Jim Rutherford talk about how they hoped he would have scored more in camp and scored more in preseason. They hoped he would have played better. Maybe that's an unfair window to ask for performance when you probably should be looking for process as much as anything. I don't want to criticize too much because I'm not in there. I don't know personality-wise if Sprong was willing to change his game a little bit and try to fit in better with the Penguins and succeed in the NHL. But it just didn't work out. And it's a shame because there is potential there. I don't know if he's a 40-goal scorer. Well, maybe if goals keep going up in the NHL, he might be. But I think in terms of like modern standards, he's probably a 20-goal guy if all things go according to plan. And that's still pretty good.
Yeah, we'll see. Do you think Rutherford is done making deals? I think I'm wondering in particular about Brassard. Do you think he's a fit with this team, or is it just not working out and he just needs to be traded?
I think Derick's getting there, and he was out for basically a month. So the injuries have held him back from finding a rhythm, and rhythm has been important to him. You've heard him talk about how it's just different being the quote-unquote third-line center and not being the guy, or at least the next guy in line after the guy. That's not what he's used to. He was always number two or even a number one in certain situations when injuries happened. And you don't play as much. You have to find ways to still be good in limited shifts. And he's still getting a good amount of playing time, don't get me wrong, but I think that's been more of an issue than he and the Penguins anticipated. But you still see the skill out there. You see him finish off that Mata pass in the Colorado game just this week. And you say, wow, yeah, this guy could really be the secondary scorer, the driver of play the Penguins need on the third line. I don't think he's a wing. I think he's a center. And if I'm Jim Rutherford, I just give this team 10 or 20 more games here. Then you get into January maybe, and they're still right around the playoff cutoff zone and maybe even out of the playoffs still at that point. I think then you make some deals. But I want to see this team with Crosby, Malkin, and Brassard down the middle. I want to see this team maybe with Pettersson getting some regular playing time and just this group get a chance to dig its way out, because I think they've earned the benefit of that doubt. And there's been a frustration from my side of it, hearing Rutherford talk like he's got to blow this thing up, when I don't think he does. I think he's got to trust in this group. And more to the point, I think this group has earned that trust to at least get halfway through the season here, get to New Year's Day, and then we can talk about some major changes. For right now, I just want to see him play.
Right. And it's just so it's frustrating, because I think the ideal scenario is you have Crosby and Gensel on the first line, Gino and Hornquist on the second line, Brassard and Kessel on the third line, and that's just not working. Brassard and Kessel seem to not work together at all, and it's just a shame. It's just I don't know. It's almost like a bad chemistry experiment, and yeah, maybe they'll figure it out. I mean, it seems like Brassard is too talented to. You think he would just adjust and maybe just needs to work with everybody a little bit more.
It could be. I also know that Phil is kind of a tough guy to play with. He flies the zone a lot. He is unconventional. He's unorthodox in a lot of ways, but he does get the job done too. So it has worked with other players. He's worked with Tyler Bozak pretty well in Toronto, and yeah, he and Malkin give up a lot of chances against. I understand why the Penguins don't want them to play together necessarily all the time, but they make magic work too. Just because I think Malkin's more of a free thinker. I think he's closer to a Kessel type of a mindset than a Crosby type of a mindset. Not that Sid's paint by numbers. He's very creative in his own right, but I think Sid's more predictable and more direct than Malkin and Kessel are. So I see why 71 and 81 have worked together. But you're right. In an ideal scenario, Kessel finds his Nick Bonino from 2015-16, and perhaps we should have just accepted that was going to be a one-off, and Bonino was a pretty special player in that regard. And Nick was willing to sacrifice his offense. A lot of times he was so deep in the defensive zone, he was cleaning up, he was allowing a guy like Kessel the freedom to go up ice and do his thing. I think Brassard wants to contribute more. And he should, because he has more offensive ability than Nick Bonino does. So I get that. And That's what team building and that's what chemistry is about, is maybe sometimes subverting some instincts that you have and trying to inspire the best out of your line mates. But easier said than done. And if something's worked for you over your whole career, then it's probably tough to change in, what would it be, year 8 or 9 or 10, whatever it is for Brassard now in the NHL.
Right. So do you think the Penguins will be all right? Do you think they're going to I mean, it's crazy to say will they make the playoffs? I mean, but do you or basically does the entire season ride on Matt Murray being okay?
Yeah, I think it comes down to goaltending. I think they'll make the playoffs even with below average goaltending. It can't be terrible goaltending like it has been at times, but even below average or average, I wouldn't bet against them to win the Metro Division. They're 5 points out, I think, right now, and they're 3 points out of a playoff spot. They're in fine shape for a team that traditionally plays better as the season goes along and has some players who you would give the benefit of the doubt to in terms of that. But if they want to go deep in the playoffs, if they want to win the Metro bracket, get past the Caps, get past the Blue Jackets, yeah, they'll need at least average goaltending. And the last 2 years, Murray has proven incapable of that. I don't know if this year the pad restrictions have affected him adversely, or maybe he's just finding being the number one guy too much of a challenge to maintain the level that he used to, which doesn't make much sense to me, because if you can do it in the playoffs for 2 months, for me, like he did in 16, then you can do it in the regular season as well when things are less intense and the games themselves don't take as much out of you. So I still have that that deep-seated belief that Murray can at least be an average starting goaltender in this league, but maybe I shouldn't. Maybe certain guys just aren't as durable as like a Marc-Andre Fleury. He really spoiled us for many years. Yes, his performance went up and down. He was better at the end of his career than he was at the beginning, no doubt. But he always gave you 60 starts a year, and that's pretty atypical in hockey these days. The position's tough to play. You have to be a physical freak almost, like Fleury was, in order to pull that off. So at this stage, I think the biggest concern for the Penguins is goaltending. Defensive depth might be a close number 2, but I'd put the guys in the blue paint at the top of the list in terms of need of improvement here if this team wants to go deep in the postseason.
Yeah. I didn't really think of that. I thought, can Murray get to the level that he was at before? But I think he can because he did it before. But yeah, the whole durability thing is a little scary. Yeah, so we'll see. But I have a feeling come February we're going to be laughing about how terrible they were in November and December. Hopefully.
Yeah, I think so too. If I were a betting man, and there are plenty of places to bet on sports these days, by the way, maybe I should become a betting man. Go down to Rivers Casino.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's close by now. If I were so inclined, I would bet on the Penguins being right there again. I keep hearing from a lot of fans in my Twitter timeline, especially, say the window closed, this team isn't the same. And yeah, sometimes you have to make changes, but I don't think the expiration date has arrived for this group. Yeah, that's just my eye test, the analytics. I think a combination of all of it tells me that this group still has at least one more decent run left in it.
Yeah, I would not discount Crosby and Malkin if they're healthy. I think they have at least one more good run in them. So we shall see. All right, sir. Thank you so much. I think a third appearance might be in your future sometime.
I appreciate that. Thanks for letting me BS about the Penguins too. I don't have quite that same outlet anymore. Working for the Robert Morris hockey team is a lot of fun and spreading the word on them. But yeah, I have some thoughts on the Pens. How could I not? Having been a lifelong fan and a couple of years on the beat too, so it's tough to get rid of those feelings and the things you have convictions about. So yeah, very much appreciated, very much enjoyable from my end.
Awesome. Thank you for coming on. I'll talk to you later.
You got it. Happy holidays, everybody.
Thanks. You too. Thanks for listening. We'll be back tomorrow with an episode previewing the weekend's NFL action, and then another episode Friday. It'll be all about the Raiders. So thanks again to Matt Gajtka Talk to you later. Another episode is in the bag.